My 8-year-old son came home with burns on the backs of his legs. Not from an accident. Not from playing outside. From sitting exactly where my mother told him to sit. While the rest of the family enjoyed lunch inside, my son was left alone on scorching concrete steps in the summer heat. At first, nobody told me what happened. Then my phone buzzed. It was a video from my father. 6 minutes long. No explanation. Just one message. Watch this before you call your mother. By the time I reached the end of that recording, I wasn't wondering why my son was crying anymore. I was wondering how long my family thought they could get away with it. My 8-year-old son walked through the front door, wrapped his arms around me, and whispered, "Grandma made me eat outside." At first, I thought he meant a picnic. Then I saw the tears in his eyes. "She let the cousins sit at the table," he said. "I had to sit on the back steps." I felt my stomach drop. Before I could ask another question, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my father. Attached was a video. 6 minutes long. One sentence underneath. "Watch this before you call anyone." By the time it ended, everything had changed. Earlier that afternoon, my son had gone to my parents' house for a family barbecue. He'd been excited all week. My sister was bringing her kids, and he loved spending time with his cousins. At least, he used to. According to my father, everything seemed normal when everyone arrived. The adults were setting up food. The kids were running around the backyard. My son was laughing with his cousins. Then lunch was ready. The other children went inside and gathered around the dining table. My son followed them. That's when my mother stopped him. She told him there wasn't enough room. At first, he thought she was joking. She wasn't. Instead, she carried a plate outside, pointed to the back steps, and told him he could eat there. Alone. The concrete had been sitting under the summer sun all afternoon. Meanwhile, through the kitchen window, he could see his cousins sitting together, laughing and eating in the air-conditioned dining room. My son didn't argue.
He didn't complain.
He just sat where Grandma told him to sit, because he wanted her to like him. Because children always believe if they're good enough, adults will treat them kindly. My father had been watching from the patio. The moment he realized my mother wasn't joking, he quietly pulled out his phone and started recording. An hour later, my son came home trying to act brave. 5 minutes after that, Grandpa sent me a video and one message. "Watch until the end." I sat down at the kitchen table and pressed play. The video started with a wide shot of my parents' backyard. Kids running, adults talking. Nothing unusual. Then my father slowly zoomed toward the back steps. My son was sitting there alone with a paper plate balanced on his knees. Inside the house, visible through the kitchen window, his cousins were gathered around the dining table, laughing, talking, eating together. A few seconds later, my mother's voice came from off-camera. "He's fine out there." My stomach tightened. Then my sister laughed and said, "Maybe next time he'll learn." Learn what? My son was 8 years old. He hadn't done anything wrong. The video continued. A few of the cousins noticed him through the window and started pointing. One of them waved dramatically before turning back to the table. Everyone inside laughed. Everyone except my father. A minute later, he finally spoke. "Why is he eating outside?" My mother didn't even hesitate. "Because some people need to understand they're not the center of everything." My father sounded confused. "He's a child." "Exactly," my mother replied. "Better he learns now." Then came the moment that hit me hardest. My son walked to the screen door and quietly asked, "Grandma, can I sit inside now?" Not demanding, not crying, just asking. My mother barely looked up.
No.
"Finish your lunch." He nodded, actually nodded, then walked back to the steps, as if he believed he deserved it. The video kept rolling, and right before it ended, my father stood up and said something that made the entire patio go silent. "You're going to regret this." The second the video ended, I grabbed my keys. 20 minutes later, I was pulling into my parents' driveway. The family barbecue was still going. Kids were playing outside. Adults were sitting on the patio. My mother looked surprised when she saw me. "You're back already?" she asked. I didn't answer. I walked straight to the table and placed my phone in the center. "Everyone needs to watch something." The conversation stopped. My sister frowned. My father sat quietly. I pressed play. For 6 minutes, nobody spoke. The only sounds were the voices from the recording. My son's voice. My mother's voice. The laughter from inside the house. By the end, the atmosphere had completely changed. My mother crossed her arms. "You're making this look worse than it was." "Worse than what?" I asked calmly. "He ate lunch. Outside. There wasn't enough room." My father finally spoke. There were 2 empty chairs at the table. Silence. My sister jumped in. "Kids are too sensitive these days." I looked directly at her. "Would you have let your son sit out there alone?" She opened her mouth, then closed it. My mother shook her head. "You don't understand. I was teaching respect." That almost made me laugh. Respect. I pointed toward the phone. What exactly did an 8-year-old do that deserved being separated from the rest of the family? Nobody answered. Not my mother. Not my sister. Not a single person sitting at that table. Then my father slowly stood up, and when he spoke, every face around the patio turned toward him, and my father looked around the patio before speaking. Then he took a slow breath. This wasn't the first time. The entire table went silent. My mother's face immediately tightened. Dad pointed toward the phone. "That video wasn't one bad decision. It's the latest example of something I've watched for years." Nobody interrupted him, not even my mother. He continued, "I've seen the favoritism. I've seen certain grandchildren treated differently. I've seen excuses made every single time." My sister stared at the ground. My father rarely raised his voice, but when he did, people listened. I should have said something sooner. That surprised everyone, including me. For years, I convinced myself things would get better. They didn't. My mother finally spoke. "You're exaggerating." "No," he replied. "I'm finally being honest." Then he revealed the part nobody expected. A week earlier, before the barbecue even happened, he'd already begun changing future family arrangements. He had decided that no family gathering would be hosted unless everyone was treated equally. No exceptions. No favorites. No excuses. Several relatives immediately nodded. Others quietly agreed. My mother's confidence started slipping. For the first time all afternoon, she looked uncertain. My sister wasn't happy. She accused Dad of overreacting. He didn't even look at her. Instead, he looked directly at my mother. "If a child leaves your house feeling unwanted, you failed as the adult." Nobody had a response to that. Not one. My mother's eyes filled with tears. But by then, the damage had already been exposed. The family had seen the video. They had heard the excuses. And now they had heard the truth. I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. Because 3 days later, something happened that nobody saw coming. Because he was about to reveal something none of us knew. 3 days later, my phone rang. It was my mother. For a moment, I considered ignoring it. Then I answered. She sounded different. Quieter. "I want to apologize," she said. Not defend. Not explain. Apologize. She admitted what happened was wrong. She admitted my son had done nothing to deserve it. And for the first time, she stopped blaming everyone else. I listened, but I also told her the truth. An apology doesn't automatically rebuild trust. Trust takes time, especially when a child gets hurt. Over the next few weeks, something unexpected happened. Several relatives reached out directly to my son. They invited him to birthday parties, family dinners, and weekend outings. My father made a special effort to spend time with him. Little by little, the sadness started fading. The question that had broken my heart, why doesn't Grandma like me?